There's a reason why thousands of people have made my basic mobile workbench for their workshops and why it's the very first project in my weekend woodworker course. A workbench is the most essential part of a woodworking shop. One of the most common purposes for a workbench is to hold wood in place while you work on it. Woodworkers use a variety of clamps all the time for all kinds of purposes in the shop, and while the basic mobile workbench is good for clamping some things to, it poses limitations in a lot of situations because you can only clamp right to the edge. If I need to clamp something in the middle, there's no clamp that I have that has that long of a reach. And of course, there's no easy way to hold something vertically. So that's why I made this workbench topper. And why I'm excited to tell you about Microjig's MatchFit Grr-rip Clamps, and the MatchFit system, the supercharge your workbench by giving you total clamping freedom and versatility beyond the edge of your workbench. The way this system works is you use a dovetail router bit to route out these grooves however you like. Then you use these special Microjig dovetail clamps that slide in this way. I recommend spacing these 4 inches apart for maximum versatility. This one is my favorite. This is the Microjig Grr-rip Clamp, and it will just slide in any of these, and then it has a trigger to tighten it down. To release it, you just pull that and slide it up. Then there's this cool dovetail ratchet clamp, and this one is especially good if you're making jigs for your table saw or router table or whatever. So it'll just slide in like that, drop down, and then clamps down that way. And of course, this topper makes vertical clamping a breeze. So let me show you how to make the MatchFit workbench topper and show you a few things that you can do with it. The standard BMW is 4 feet wide by 2 feet deep. So I cut this sheet of 3/4 inch plywood to 4 feet wide by 3 feet deep. Then after drawing out a grid, I clamped it down to my workbench using the Grr-rip clamps. Sure, you can use them as regular clamps. Before you route out the dovetail slots, I recommend cutting relief grooves using a 1/4 inch straight bit in your router to remove most of the material. I'm actually going to be using this Microjig 2-step bit for this part because I'm also going to be using it for something later. Now I can go back and make a second pass using a 14-degree dovetail bit. And of course the Microjig dovetail bit comes in 1/2 inch shank or 1/4 inch shank. I'm using the 1/4 inch because that's the router I have. And I'll slice this into 2 pieces. Now I just need to attach this big piece to that piece. I think the way to do this is to flip this around like this. And then this one can go here. I'll join these together by gluing and screwing it together. I'll have to use these plain old boring clamps to hold it together while I drive the screws. I want an easy way to attach this to my workbench whenever I want to use it. So that's where this 2-step router bit is going to come in handy again. First I'll clamp this in place. Next I'll drill a pilot hole through the topper and through the top of the bench. I'll put 1 in each corner. Now what I can do is use this router bit in my drill to bore out the 1/4 inch hole and make a counter bore so that the top of the screw will be below the surface. And that creates this really clean hole with a nice rounded over edge. Whenever I want to use this topper, I can just drop it down like this. Then I'll take a washer and drop it in the hole along with a screw that goes all the way through both pieces. And what I'm going to do is take advantage of this Microjig dovetail track hardware. It comes with all these different fixtures that go in these slots for making jigs, and what I'm going to use are these little turn knobs. Naturally, you're going to come up with a million different ways you could use this thing, but I want to show you a few ideas I have that are going to make common tasks in my shop more efficient. First of all, a big part of my style of woodworking is pocket hole joinery. Let me show you how I can use it for that. I'll use the grip clamps to hold my pocket hole jig in place. In order for pocket holes to work, you need to clamp the two pieces together while you drive the screws. So I can use this grip clamp for that. I like that it's a one-handed operation on this. So then, once I get these two pieces together, I can release the trigger and just slowly make sure that this is flush. Clamp it down. Then I can clamp down this piece. Now let's say you want to route an edge profile, say a round over to a board. You can't clamp it to the edge of a workbench, or you could, but you'd have to stop when you get to the point where the clamp is, undo it, clamp it down, and finish off the other side. With the MatchFit system, what I can do is clamp down a board over here, and then I'll clamp one on this side. But what I'm going to do is take this out, and I'm going to angle it in just a little bit, creating kind of a wedge shape. Now what I can do is just tap this in so I've got a secure hold. Sometimes I like to cover the edges of plywood with iron-on edge banding. The vertical section is perfect for that. Finally, I want to show you this great setup for gluing up panels. So what I've got here are two of these boards with some packing tape on them to prevent the glue from sticking to it. So this is going to elevate my panel up above these two pipe clamps. So once I've got these edges glued up, I can put them together. So what happens is when you're gluing up panels like this, sometimes they slip apart this way. So you need some sort of downward pressure, which is why I use these clamping cauls. I've had these for years. Again, these have the packing tape on one side so the glue doesn't stick. So I can put these here, and this will help flatten it out. Now I can use these clamps to apply pressure. This is way easier than the way I've always been doing it, which is by trying to slide clamps underneath these cauls. So I can tighten this down just loosely for now, not really tight. And then I can just continue tightening these clamps just a little bit. And again, flatten these out. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed this video and this project. You know, I've been working with Microjig for 13 years now, and it's always exciting for me to see what they're gonna come up with next. There's really no limit to what you can do with the Microjig MatchFit system. I just love the versatility of it, especially with all of the different types of dovetail clamps. I especially like the one-handed operation of the grip clamp. And honestly, there's something really satisfying about that ratchet clamp. Anyway, that's all I got for now. You can learn more over at microjig.com. Thanks for watching.